Ever wonder why some companies can manufacture products at a lower cost than others? What is the secret behind their cost efficiency? These intriguing questions often baffle the best of us, especially when we observe stark differences in pricing strategies across various brands and industries. Well, the answers lie deep within the intricate maze of economics, specifically in the theory of production and cost. This theory is a fundamental cornerstone in understanding how businesses operate and strategize their production processes to maximize profits while minimizing costs. It's not just about producing more at a lower cost, but also about optimizing resources, achieving efficiency, and making smart decisions that influence the bottom line. The theory is complex yet fascinating, filled with concepts and principles that have real-world implications, shaping the business landscape as we know it. So, buckle up and get ready for an exciting journey. Today, we delve into the fascinating world of economics, specifically focusing on the theory of production and cost. The theory of production revolves around how businesses convert inputs, like labor, capital, and raw materials, into outputs, which are the goods or services they sell. Let's break this down. Inputs are the resources used in the production process. This could be anything from the raw materials used to create a product, the machines used in manufacturing, or even the labor that goes into crafting a service. These inputs are then transformed through a process into outputs, which are the final products or services that a business sells. Now, the interesting part is how these inputs are manipulated to maximize outputs. This is where the law of variable proportions comes into play. Essentially, this law states that as we increase one input while keeping other inputs constant, there will initially be an increase in output, but after a certain point, the rate of increase in output will start to decline. This is due to the fact that there are only so many resources available, and after a certain point, adding more of one input can actually hinder the efficiency of others. This brings us to the 3 stages of production. Stage 1 is where increasing a single input leads to a larger increase in output, making it the most efficient stage. Stage 2 is where output still increases as we add more of one input, but at a decreasing rate. And finally, stage 3 is when adding more of one input actually decreases total output. This is the stage we want to avoid as it indicates that resources are being wasted. So it's a delicate balancing act. Businesses need to find the optimal combination of inputs to yield the maximum amount of output without wasting resources. And this is what the theory of production is all about. It's not just about producing goods or services, but doing so in the most efficient way possible. So the theory of production is all about maximizing output and efficiency. Now, let's move on to the second part of our discussion, the cost function. A cost function is a mathematical representation of the costs a business incurs in the production process. It's the backbone of every business decision, from setting prices to determining production levels. Now, imagine you're running a bakery. Your costs aren't just about the flour, sugar, and eggs you buy. No, they're much more complex. Let's start with fixed costs. These are the expenses that don't change with the level of output. Think of them as the cost of being in business. For our bakery, these could include the rent for the shop, the salaries of your full-time staff, and the cost of your ovens. These costs must be paid whether you bake 100 loaves of bread or none at all. Then we have variable costs. Unlike fixed costs, variable costs change with the level of production. If you decide to bake more bread, you'll need more flour, sugar, and eggs. These are your variable costs. The more you produce, the higher these costs become. Now, when you add the fixed costs and variable costs together, you get the total cost. This is the total amount it costs you to run your business and produce your goods. But how does the cost function fit into all this? Well, the cost function allows us to model these costs mathematically. It's a formula that takes the quantity of goods produced as an input and gives the total cost as an output. This function can help businesses predict their costs at different levels of production, allowing for more strategic decision-making. By understanding the cost function and the concepts of fixed and variable costs, businesses can gain a clearer picture of their financial landscape. They can then make more informed decisions about their production processes, such as how much to produce and at what price to sell their products. With these cost concepts in mind, businesses can make informed decisions about their production processes. You may be wondering, how does the theory of production relate to cost? Well, it's simpler than you might think. Picture this scenario. You're a business owner and you're deciding how many units of a product to produce. your production decisions will inevitably affect your costs. And this is where the theories of production and cost intertwine. Let's start with economies of scale. Imagine a factory. The more units it produces, the more efficiently it can use its resources. This efficiency lowers the cost per unit, creating what we call economies of scale. You can think of it as a bulk discount for production. The more you produce, the cheaper each unit becomes. But wait, before you decide to produce as many units as possible, remember there's a catch. The concept of dice economies of scale comes into play. This is when increasing production beyond a certain level results in a rise in the average cost per unit. Why, you ask? Well, after a certain point it becomes increasingly difficult to manage larger production volumes effectively. The factory becomes overcrowded, workers become less efficient, and additional costs arise. So what's the sweet spot? This brings us to the concept of the optimum production level. It's the point where the cost per unit is at its lowest, right before dice economies of scale kick in. Producing at this level allows a business to maximize efficiency and minimize costs. But how does a business find this optimum level? Well, that's where the cost function comes in. By examining the relationship between the number of units produced and the total cost, a business can identify the production level that minimizes costs and maximizes profits. So, as you can see, the theory of production and cost are more than just economic jargon. They're practical tools that businesses use to make critical decisions. Understanding the relationship between production and cost is crucial for businesses to maximize profits. But how do businesses apply these theories in the real world? Well, the theory of production and cost is not just a thought experiment, it's a practical tool that businesses use every day. Companies use these theories to make informed decisions about their production processes and cost structures. Let's delve into some real-world applications to get a clearer picture. Imagine you're running a bakery. Your goal is to produce the maximum amount of bread while minimizing costs. Here, the theory of production helps you determine the optimal combination of resources like flour, yeast, and labor to maximize output. You'd also consider the law of diminishing returns, which suggests that after a certain point, adding more of one resource while keeping others constant may not necessarily increase output proportionally. Now let's talk about cost. In the bakery scenario, you'd also need to consider fixed costs, such as rent and equipment, and variable costs, like ingredients and labor. By understanding the cost function, you can identify ways to minimize these costs without compromising on the quality or quantity of your bread. Companies don't operate in a vacuum. They're constantly adapting to changes in the market. Let's say the price of flour skyrockets due to a shortage. In this case, the bakery might adjust its production process by using a flour substitute that's more cost-effective, or it might decide to increase the price of its bread. This is a prime example of how businesses use the theory of production and cost to navigate changes in the market. In a nutshell, the theory of production and cost helps businesses make strategic decisions about resource allocation, cost minimization, and market adaptation. It's a crucial part of the decision-making process, guiding businesses in their quest to deliver value to customers while maintaining profitability. Indeed, the theory of production and cost is not just an abstract concept, but a practical tool that businesses use every day. To wrap up our discussion, let's delve back into the vital points we've covered. We kicked off with the theory of production, an economic principle that helps us understand how inputs like labor, capital, and resources are transformed into outputs, the goods and services we consume. Next, we explored the cost function, a mathematical representation of the relationship between a firm's production costs and output levels. The cost function is crucial as it helps businesses determine the most cost-effective way to produce their goods or services. We then tied these two concepts together, highlighting the intricate relationship between production and cost. This relationship is pivotal in decision-making within businesses, influencing everything from pricing strategies to expansion plans. Finally, we looked at real-world applications, showcasing how this theory isn't just confined to economics textbooks, but has tangible impacts on our everyday lives. So, the next time you see a product on a shelf, remember, a lot of thought has gone into not just its production, but also the cost. Thanks for joining us on this economic journey. See you next time.